Good evening and welcome to our Sunday evening fireside chat, everybody. My name is Mark, and we're here in our just outside Final Control in the Wild Earth Camp next to Vuyatela Game Lodge here at Juma Game Reserve. And a warm welcome to you, and first and foremost, a very happy Father's Day to all the fathers out there, especially to my dad. And haven't been able to find him today. He's probably been out with my siblings. I hope he has. But happy Father's Day, Dad. And to all the fathers out there, you are underappreciated sometimes. And it's that one day in the year that we get to appreciate you. Mother's Day should be every day, or at least every Sunday. But at least there's one day that the fathers should be remembered. Speaking of fathers, we're going to talk about some of the animals that we've seen this week, and some of the fathers have been around, the likes of Mafufunyan, and none the worse for wear with an encounter, or rather from an encounter with Yambilu Yodan, who's the father of our cubs. No, not our cubs. The cubs that we watch. Karula's cubs. We tend to think of them as our cubs because we develop such strong bonds with them. But unfortunately we haven't seen them. We've certainly been trying. And as far as the drives are concerned, we haven't been seeing them. But some of the guys have seen them down at the dam on 2 occasions this week. And Karula has been around without them, patrolling her territory and marking her territory. I'm hoping that maybe tomorrow we'll get a chance to see them, because it's been a long time since I've seen them, and I know they're probably a lot bigger than when I did see them last. In fact, come to think of it, at about 8 months old now, I probably wouldn't recognize them, but with a bit of luck we're going to maybe get to see them this week coming. We're going to make every effort to do so. There's been some amazing things happening. There has been, instead of the usual crash of 5 rhino, we've had a crash of 4 that have been, or rather crash of 6. Sorry, there's been an extra one that has joined them. We need to go through photographs and try and find out who it is that has joined the 5 that now makes the 6th, because that will be interesting to find out. Hyena Den is looking great. We've visited the hyena den, and there have been some cubs around. And what looks like a new youngster that I didn't see the last time I was there, because I think if you look at the time frame between when I was last there before my last leave, and there wasn't a cub that would have been that young, so I don't know, I'm kind of confused with that. Maybe when Tara gets back she can help me with that. What else has there been? Amazing lion activity for a change. And with a little bit of luck tomorrow there will still be a few lion around. I don't know what happened to the sticks. I must still talk to the guys at Vuyatela to find out what happened to the sticks, 2 females and the young male that we're visiting. And they killed a buffalo this week up on the fire break, just west of Mvubu Road Junction with the fire break, which is kind of north of Tambuti, or north of Gari Dam, between Gari Dam and Tambuti Dam, up on the fire break. That was quite interesting because it was a female buffalo and was just the old lady lioness and the younger female with the young sticks male. And I think what's most interesting about that is that the 3 of them did manage to bring down a buffalo. So we had some wonderful sightings there. What was, I think, the most incredible sighting of the week, though, would have been the 5 lionesses that we saw here on quarantine. I think it was yesterday morning. Finding them at daybreak and following them, and then finding them settling down eventually. The old lady that is named Bibi from the Tsalala Pride, that has the 4 young females with her, and we from what I understand, she's the grandma. They're 4 offspring of her 2 daughters, and the 2 daughters have gone off and had more cubs now. So I still need to find out a little bit more about that pride, and I will do. I haven't been able to get onto the internet today. Can't start my computer for some reason. I've been trying all day and trying all sorts of things that I could think of. I might even actually ask some of the viewers tomorrow during the drive to try and figure things out for me. And sometimes the best way, networking. And maybe if we do it together on drive tomorrow, maybe somehow we'll figure out. There might be the odd Windows 7 fundi out there that knows what's wrong. But I'm at a loss. Anyways, that's computer stuff. That's not for our fireside chat discussion tonight. Elephant have been around. We had a wonderful big breeding herd that came in. We saw them just after I arrived back from leave. That was fantastic because we had just seen this big herd of buffalo, and I was just trying to find out where the extent of the buffalo herd went, and it took us up to Cheetah Cut Line, and we found this huge group of elephant crossing Cheetah Cut Line coming onto Western Gowrie, and we followed them all the way into the buffalo herd. There was some wonderful interaction between the buffalo and the elephant, and that was interesting. It was very interesting, and unfortunately we didn't see any of that breeding herd after that. There have been a few bulls around. We saw an interesting bull today that had some interesting behavior, the way he was pushing his head against a tree, almost as though he either had a headache or a toothache or something. And I believe there's been a big bull around. I haven't seen him. And there's another younger bull here on quarantine who was just at the back of camp earlier today. And hopefully some more elephant to come. We haven't seen the young hippo calf. We don't know where they've taken her or him. The hippo at Gowrie Dam, or hippo that we normally see here, the mother with the young calf seems to have moved off somewhere. So I don't know where she is. It doesn't look like she's a Buffelshoek Dam either. So she's probably up in a dam, somewhere up on Buffelshoek Big Dam or one of those dams up there. As far as leopard are concerned, well, what was very interesting was what I was hearing on the radio yesterday with Karula and Mafufunyan. And I would imagine that it would be fine with Karula and Yambilu Yodan to spend time together, but this was a rather unique situation. Evidently, at that old Mpisi Kaya on Cheetah Cut Line, where the fire break is, the old hyena den that was active back in 2008, 2009, Mafufunyan evidently took out one of the young warthog, and I was speaking to Rudolph actually, one of our viewers, Rudolph Kals. I was speaking to Rudolph, who witnessed the whole thing, and he's probably got some really amazing photographs. Rudolph was there, and they saw Mafufunyan kill this young warthog. And what was, I think, the most incredible thing about that was that the rest of the warthog actually tried to attack him and tried to get him to release this young warthog. And he had caught it so quickly they didn't really get a good grip on it, which of course meant that it was squealing a lot. And I think the guys that were witnessing it are going to have to live with those squeals for a very long time. It's something that you don't ever forget. It's something that isn't very pleasant. A lot of people want to see kills when they come to Africa. They want to see the action. And when it does happen, you realize that you're witnessing a life that is being taken. And albeit a four-legged life for some of us, that doesn't really make a difference. But what was most interesting about that was that Karula witnessed this whole thing. And then he didn't really even get aggressive with her, from what I understand. He might have flattened his ears and growled at her, but he proceeded through the whole process of killing and eating this warthog with Karula watching from only a few feet away. What was also very interesting about that was that the Styx females and that young Styx male had ended up down at Treehouse Dam. No, sorry, Twin Dams. I always get the two mixed up. But they were at Twin Dams, which was somewhat west of where the old Mpisi Kaya is, but close enough to be within earshot, being down in the dip. And they heard the warthog squealing, and evidently they approached the scene, but they didn't really get that close. They got to a point where they lay down on the road and they were assessing the situation. I guess being a predator, especially an old lady, a young female and the young male, you don't want to go rushing into a situation because there might be adult male lion, there might be anything there that could pose a threat. So I think they lay down in the road to try and listen to what was going on, to try and ascertain who it was that had killed the warthog, rather than rush in and try and find a free meal. I don't know where they went after that. I'll have to find out from some of the guys. Likelihood that they went south, and which is why they weren't found today. And even more interesting was that Induna was in the same area, but evidently he didn't stick around for too long, and he headed further west past Twin Dams, and he headed up towards Weaver's Nest. And it was there that just after Abel from Cheetah Plains and Rudolph, who is one of our viewers, just after they'd witnessed this kill, they followed Induna and actually watched him kill a francolin. So having seen two kills in an evening, I think probably made Rudolph's whole stay here at Djuma Game Reserve. We don't know where Induna went. We don't know where Mafufunyan went, but we did see some of Karula's tracks today. She seemed to have headed down Rebecca's road. We did find some tracks this morning on Zoe's road. There were some tracks with the cubs, almost as though it was a place where she had gotten to a point where she had called them out. Because when I was looking on the ground, there were tracks of the two cubs coming out of the grasses, and a lot of tracks running in circles. The kind of tracks that you would imagine that you would find when Mama's returned from a kill, or Mama's been out for a while marking her territory, and she comes back and the cubs are rubbing against her and turning around and rubbing against her again. But sadly, with all our driving around this morning, we didn't seem to find her, or them for that matter, and I'm hoping to find out. I didn't have a radio with me this afternoon, so I'm not too sure what was found, but I'll certainly find out first thing in the morning when we start our drive, see what we can follow up on tomorrow's drive for the following week. Because I think what we need to do is we need to see things in a little bit of a longer time frame, rather than just do the morning drive and see what's out there for the morning. We need to start following up on what was there yesterday and where they went from between the mornings that we do the drives, for the time being at any rate. Keeping a flow, I think, is what I'm aiming for, and trying to keep up with the animals as they move through Western Gowrie. Other than that, I think one of the things I wanted to bring up this evening was the fact that I have mentioned Becky, and there have been a few changes on camera recently, and Becky is an intern. Becky's come in as a volunteer, and you have heard me mention her name, and one of the reasons for Fireside Chat this evening is to introduce Becky, and going to be doing that shortly. Becky comes from England, and I think rather than me tell you all about Becky, come and sit next to me.
Thanks, Mark.
It's common to shake hands at Fireside Chat. Yeah, welcome to Fireside Chat.
Thank you.
Your first Fireside Chat. And first of all, I think the main question is going to be where you come from and how you come here.
Okay, so I was born and raised in the UK in Leicestershire, in a small village called Long Clawson, very rural location.
Mm-hmm.
And since I could walk, I've always had a great passion for animals and wildlife. So that's what really brings me to Africa, I think. I was out here for 6 months last year and completely fell in love with the country and its culture and its wildlife. So just had to came back, and I've been given this fantastic opportunity with Wild Earth TV. So here
Wonderful.
I am.
So growing up in a rural, does that mean you were exposed to animals? I mean, did you have? It wasn't quite suburbia, so you had animals around you when you were growing up?
Yeah, it's very rural in England's not like it is in Africa.
No, I wouldn't.
There's not
imagine
the wildlife as there is. There's a lot of farming.
Yeah.
So all your kind of cattle and sheep and grazing animals and agriculture and things. There's quite a lot of woodland. There's a big woods near us called Beaver Woods, which is a really old woodland that's now kind of protected in the area. And there's deer and badgers and hedgehogs and a lot of bird life in that woodland. So
okay.
Yeah.
You were exposed to that. I mean, you could you adventure?
Yeah,
into that?
General public. It's not quite the same as in Africa, where you can kind of, you're in a game reserve, but you can't just go out and walk wherever you want because of obviously the big game and the dangers. In the UK, it's very different. You can generally walk. You're free to go wherever you want, apart from private land. So in Beaver Woods, there's public footpaths and things, so you can take your own trails, and there's a lot of special picnic sites and hides and things where you can go.
I think that's probably what makes a lot of people who come to Africa think that they can just wander around.
Yeah.
I've had some really strange incidents of finding people wandering around game reserves, and they say, "Oh, we're just out for an afternoon stroll." And I mean, yes, but the lion like that, and what about the buffalo? What about the elephant? And they sort of think, no, but they're all out there when we're out on game drive. And I sort of say, yeah, but you're walking where we go on game drive. It seems to be that they seem to think that there are times involved, that the animals do things. But other than that, you came to Africa. I know that you told me that you studied environmental science and stuff at uni. But we'll get to that later, maybe. I think we're going to come down to what brought you here to Wild Earth and where you're going with that. But you've joined us to work on camera. You're going to be with me on drive, on camera. But to get here, you did what a couple of people that have been with us have done, is the Wildlife Film Academy.
Yeah.
And I was asked actually last night, funnily enough, at the lodge when I was there for dinner with some of the guests, what exactly is the Wildlife Film Academy? And I said, well, they learn wildlife filming, and I don't really know that much about it.
Yeah, it's a really interesting course. It's a 1-month course, and it's an introduction to wildlife filmmaking. So they take you through the whole process of writing a script, or thinking, researching of an idea for a documentary, wildlife documentary, and they take you through all the script writing. That's the first stage to it. And then they bring in a technical camera person who teaches you all about how the cameras work, and different depths of fields, and how to use a camera in different scenarios.
Yeah.
And then you have a week-long shoot. So you basically come up with your idea of a story. You get told how to do it in practice, so with your camera, how to film it. Then you have a week's location shoot. So you go out and film your story, and then you have a week in edit.
Okay.
So you get taught how to use your Final Cut Pro and how to edit your footage that you've taken into a story, and how to put all the sound and voiceovers into that. And you come out the end of the process with a 3-minute documentary. So you've basically created a 3-minute wildlife documentary.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Where do you get to do that, though?
That's at a place called Enterbeni.
Yes, I think everybody's probably heard about Enterbeni, because Tara came from Enterbeni.
Yeah.
And whenever Tara says my old reserve, you know that she's talking about Enterbeni.
Yeah. So that's at Enterbeni, and I also went back and did my level 1 Fagasa course as well.
Oh, okay. That's
Afterwards.
great. Yeah.
So I've
And
got
you passed that?
Yeah, passed that.
Good
So I've
on
got
you.
my theory and practical and my level 1. So I'd like to work towards my level 2 as well. When I'm out here.
Okay. Well,
So-
I hope I can provide some sort of assistance or help.
Yeah, it's
I
kind of
suppose
killing 2 birds with 1 stone, because
Yeah.
I've got the practical work from the camera side of things coming through, and I'm also learning every game drive from
Well,
your
you mustn't be shy.
experiences and
Mustn't be
things.
shy to ask
So,
questions.
Yeah, it's really
Yeah.
interesting.
What did you choose for your 3 minutes?
I changed my idea, as always happens. I originally wanted to do, my idea was about a predator and prey relationship. So I took a lion and zebra basically, and I wanted to do a documentary about how prey and predator have adapted to kind of get one better on each other.
Yeah.
So, and the last kind of the tagline of my film would have been that prey are successful in their own right, because not every lion hunt ends in a kill. So in their own right they have adapted, and the question was that you left with the viewers was, would you prefer to be a lion or a zebra at the end of the day?
Yeah.
What challenges
Okay.
kind of do both animals face? But when I was out filming, I was lucky enough to film an actual lion hunt, so that was really interesting. So I got not the exact footage of the lion stalking and actually the actual hunt sequence, but at Enterbeni there's an interesting coalition of, I think it's a father-son. Is it father-son or brothers? I can't remember the relationship between the 2 male lions there. But anyway, the female lion had 2 sub-adult cubs with her. They're not cubs, they're sub-adults, so I think they're about 18 months.
Yeah.
And she had disabled a baby wildebeest, and we got there just as she had made the first move, and then left the 2 sub-adults to try and kill this wildebeest. So I got all that on footage. So my documentary ended up being about basically a lion hunt. And then what was really interesting is the rest of the pride, they were split up at this time. They were apart. They heard all this commotion going on of this young wildebeest calling, and they came in to kind of see what was going on. So you got the alpha or dominant male coming in and jumping on the kill, and the 2 sub-adults kind of ran off submissively and then went and lay in the grass watching as he obviously had his fill, and then let the other 2 females in to feed, and then the 2 sub-adults obviously had done all the hard work and learning, and they had to wait till the very end to get their fill. So that was really interesting, really exciting thing to see.
That is interesting. It's interesting from the point of view that it's sort of the classic hierarchical sequence that it's the male, the females, and then the young ones, and it doesn't always happen that way.
No.
I've sort of been bottom jaw on the ground where the big male has taken it away from the females and he lets the little ones come in and feed with them, but he doesn't let the females. There is every combination of things, and some of the books will say that the male steals the kill and he doesn't, and there's got to be this hierarchy. But that sounds like that classic hierarchy.
It was. There's one interesting part where the male kind of finished eating a little bit, and then he let one of the females start feeding, but he wouldn't let the other two females.
Wow.
So we don't know
Must have
whether
been the alpha
she was
female.
mating or with her at the time. So that was.
Only the alpha female is the one is the one that initiates the hunt, and she pretty much guides the hunt. And she has actually a lot to say about where the pride goes. So it could be they were just appeasing her.
Yeah.
Keeping her happy.
It was really sweet to watch how the two little ones were kind of just being really submissive. But subsequently they've gone on. When I went back to do my Fagasa course, we saw the girl, it was a girl and a boy, two sub-adults, and the girl actually was getting quite good at her hunting skills, and I think she had made her first kill while we were back at, when I was back at Entebbe doing my Fagasa course. So that was really nice to see the progression of how she's grown up.
Yeah.
So,
Well, Becky's going to be with us for a while and learning camera and hopefully learning a little bit about the wildlife. So I'm going to have to get into sort of teaching mode. And hopefully I can share some stuff with you. But then again, there's probably stuff that you can teach me too, because I see you're also quite a good stills photographer. You've been into that quite a lot.
Yeah.
So there's always the opportunity to learn from you on the still side of things, and look forward to seeing some of your photos too. Yeah. Tell me about environmental science. What does that entail?
It's a really interesting course. I was quite stuck when I left school, and I had quite a wide range of things that I was interested in, but they were all on the kind of sciencey, biology, chemistry, geography, geology, geography kind of side of things. And environmental science brings together all of those subjects, and it puts them into a practical scenario. So you can choose your different modules, anything from there was courses in or units in ecology, conservation, biodiversity, environmental politics, environmental management systems. So it's just a huge array of information, and you can pick your way through the course. So I stuck to mainly ecology and conservation, biology side of things, but it relates it to your local, in the UK, the environment. So we'd be talking about the coastlines and how they were formed and all of that kind of thing, which was really interesting when I came over to South Africa and did the Fagasa course. You have all your individual units, which you could relate back to environmental science. So you've got your weather and climate, geology, astronomy, biomes, all of that. Yeah. So, yeah.
Okay, that's interesting. And obviously a lot different to, I guess you could say it's quite a closed system in the UK, because or rather limited. And then suddenly you get to Southern Africa, or Africa for that matter, and there's just such a more complex biome. It's just such a more complex environment.
Definitely.
And what is it? I mean, or rather, how is it that humans fit into that whole scenario? I mean, in terms of learning environmental science and learning the basics of ecology and everything else.
You have a lot of the units were human based. There was a lot of work on obviously renewable energy and the impact of society, human society, on biodiversity and things like that. A lot of conservation units, how man influences kind of the environment, and also environmental management systems is how in business in the UK they can do the government's quite strict on kind of your business more and more these days becoming more environmentally friendly and building up environmental credentials. So the Environmental Management Unit was looking at it's more of a process that businesses can take to become more environmentally sustainable, basically.
Okay.
So looking at how they can reduce energy
Carbon
use and their
footprints.
carbon footprints, and how they can become more green and operate as a business.
And I suppose recycling is a very big part of it.
Recycling is a very big part of it. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think that we quite utilize the technology that we have at the moment, at any rate, in terms of recycling, and especially with regards to certain types of waste and how to create energy from it. Just having been part of a program where we created, and it's a simple smut on a very, very small scale, created a biodigester from all the kitchen and human waste that we were using, and creating the gas to then either power a stove or a light, and how rural Africa could not only develop, but it could benefit from that kind of. I know that there've been experiments, I think in Somalia or somewhere in North Africa with camels, and using camel dung, and in some very arid areas using cow dung. And the same principle as biodigesters.
I think there's a huge opportunity, especially in Africa and the rural locations, for a lot of the renewable energy technologies, your solar, PV cells.
Solar, I don't know. Solar. The problem with solar is that it's still so expensive.
Yeah, definitely.
And I think once they can
reduce
refine it and produce it on a more renewable level, that's available to a person who's earning less than $100 a year in annual income.
And simple things like rainwater harvesting. I know they do some of that out here.
But definitely, I know there have been some developments with solar energy not using necessarily photovoltaic cells, where they're using merely reflective sheets.
Yeah.
It might take a whole day. Just by the way, we have a pot on the stove this evening. This is our dinner. It's called a poiki or poichi. And what it is essentially it's layers of food in a cast iron pot, and the heat slow cooks, almost like a crock pot, slow cooks it, but so much more than a crock pot, because you get so much more flavor from the wood that we use to burn. And I know there's this invention that concentrates the solar glare, rather, whatever it is, onto the center of the pot, merely using mirrored stainless steel or whatever wings. But it might take a whole day to cook a pot like that. But it's still surely far better than depleting the environment of firewood, which is so necessary in terms of not only providing shelter for new growth, but returning nutrients to the soil. It's an interesting subject, Africa has endless sunshine, and there are areas where there's consistent, or rather persistent, wind. And the two technologies are there already. They perhaps just have to be refined. They perhaps just have to be made more available to your average person in this, in a rural community. There have been wonderful developments, though. I mean, the things like the roundabout water pump. Have you heard of that?
No, I've not.
Making like the kiddies roundabout, where this wheel thing spins and it's got bars on, and kids can using that because it has a centrifugal force, using that to drive a centrifugal pump to pump water. So the more the kids play, the more
That's an interesting concept.
So basically the same thing as a windmill that is driving a pump. Instead of a windmill, it's kids playing on a roundabout. That's one of the novel things that I've seen in a rural area. I think that was in Botswana, actually. But yes, it's an open page, an open book for entrepreneurship in terms of providing energy for rural communities, providing means to draw water from the ground, or to cook food, or to provide light, especially now the LEDs that use such low light and they last forever. There's got to be something that comes that is going to be a quick fix for rural Africa to maybe stop depleting the environment of dead wood and firewood and providing light and warmth and a means to cook a meal. Those, I think, for me, would be some of the main factors that are influencing the environment today. And then again, of course, the methane production. Not only that which is being pushed out by all the cattle, but you can harvest some of that. Creating a closed system and the likes of a biodigestor. It is an interesting subject. I'm sure we'll talk a lot more about that in time. Other than that, you've done a phenomenal job already with the camera. You've been so lucky. You've had beginner's luck.
Lucky, I think so.
Don't get too complacent. Don't think
I'm
that this happens all
great
the time.
things from
No. Your first visit down to the dam cam, you had Karula and the cubs. Yeah. And just fixing the dam cam.
Yeah.
And
the second time.
I shouldn't say that because it sounds like it's the dam cam, because it is the camera at the dam. But there you were. The first day you went down to see where the camera was, Karula and the cub. The next day you were down at the camera.
Karula pops up again. Yeah.
And well, in the last 24 hours, we've seen 3 different groups of lions. So
it's been pretty amazing.
Took me, I think, about 8 months to see, or more, to see 3 different.
The big 5 in about, must have been a day and a half as well. So,
Shut up.
I'm expecting wild dogs
Yeah,
or something.
okay. Well, that might well actually happen. Beginner's luck might be continuing.
I hope
Becky's going to be with me on camera for a bit, so I'm hoping we're going to see some good stuff. Tomorrow morning, join me. I think, are you on camera?
Yep.
Okay, so join Becky and I again on camera tomorrow. Well, I'm not on camera. I'm in front of the camera, unfortunately. I'm surprised it isn't broken yet. But we'll be on drive, 6:30 Central African time. Thanks for joining us here on our Fireside chat this evening. It's been lovely. It's been overdue. We have been a little bit busy on other things, but we will try and bring you our Fireside chats every Sunday, and I hope to see you first thing in the morning. And from Mark and
Becky
and Daniel behind the camera, Seb and Craig are in final control, and that is the crew that we have from all of us here at Wild Earth Safari. Good night, everybody, and happy Father's Day.
Good night.
Bye.
Bye.